Hi, I'm Jaime Selice, writer of Nightwing and Batgirl Year One, and you're listening to Comics in Motion.
The Iceman cometh. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Stay cool, bird boy. I hate when you come through the Let's get some ice.
Hey, Freeze. He's on.
Bombs away, Batman.
Right, welcome everyone. This is episode 69 of the Comics in Motion podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris Phelps, and my co-host and very good friend is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hi, Chris. Are you staying cool? Or are you pushing too many pencils?
No, now.
Get to the chopper. This is the only cast. So, welcome to the Comics in Motion podcast. What we like to do here is we like to review movies and TV shows that are based on comic books. Myself, I'll be reviewing from the perspective of a long-time comic book reader.
And I'll be reviewing from the TV and movie perspective.
And what we also like to do is we also like to spoil the hell out of everything we review. So if you haven't watched our choice of the week, you know what? Forget that. Don't worry. We cannot spoil this one. So just listen away. So we also do have is we have a very special guest with us. We have Jaime Selice again, friend of the show. Welcome to the show, Jaime.
Oh, boys, you're not going to be fighting over little old me now, are you?
Oh, wow. She has one-up me, Chris, there. So come on, where's your impression, Chris?
Thanks for turning up today, Jamie. We're really appreciative of your help reviewing this absolute mess of a Batman film.
Actually, I'm going to do my George Clooney Batman impression. There we go.
I'll do with Chris O'Donnell. Gotcha. I gotcha.
Should we go more like, yeah. I don't want to do anything. I'm going to my room.
O'Donnell, get on that naughty step.
Hang on, let me do Lucy Silverstone's English accent. Hi, I live in England. I'm from Oxford. No, you're not, Bob. No, you're not.
So, Jamie, welcome back. So, What have you been up to recently? I believe you're looking at developing that screenplay a little bit more.
Yeah, you guys gave me the great idea of wanting to maybe make it into an audio podcast, which I think would be really cool, like in the same vein of Wolverine the Long Night. I'm looking for voice actors. If anybody is interested, especially I'm looking for some guys for some of the bigger parts. Anybody's interested, I'll give my information at the end of the show because I love to work with people who are super passionate about Batman and have a theater bug, that this could kind of be a good outlet for people.
Awesome. It sounded like you've got your Batgirl sorted right there.
Yeah. Selfish. Yeah, it's true. It's going to be a fight because I want to play Batgirl, but now I have to rethink this whole thing because selfishly, this is the only time I'll probably ever get to play Batgirl. But I don't know, Chris. We might have to hold some auditions.
Yeah. I'm up for this. You've seen my Batman impression. Obviously, Alfred, I could go down there. Mr. Wayne, would you like a cup of tea, please, Mr. Wayne? The Batmobile is ready and waiting for you. That sounds a bit...
Should I make you a sandwich?
Oh, hello. Here's my niece from England. How are you today? That's a bit Dave's a bit more posher than me, though, Jamie.
I don't know. I prefer the Nolan Michael Caine version myself, you know. Stop throwing those bloody spears.
This is like an open audition, this, Jim. Hang on a sec. Wait a minute. What about this one? What about Bane? You don't need an opening for Bane. Dave actually does a better Bane than me, actually.
But I have got a mug, but it's full of tea, so that won't quite go down as well. So it'll be like Bane drowning.
I'm cupping my hands. It's not the same, Dave. It's not the same.
I might have to change the screenplay to just have a rogue gallery section of just like every villain. We need Mr. Freeze. We need Poison Ivy. We need Bane.
Yeah. So. Well, we could get Matt Frewer on again for he could be the Riddler, couldn't he? Obviously, Jim Carrey's sound alike. So we could have all sorts on there, Jim. I'm definitely up for this. Just count me in, definitely.
Yeah, no, it would be a lot of fun.
So, Jamie, how's Daredevil doing?
He's okay. He's recovering. I think we're back to around 7 or 8 days. The record was 15. For anybody who doesn't know or doesn't follow me on Twitter, there's a little Daredevil bobblehead sitting between the cubes next to me and my coworker. And for a while, he was constantly getting knocked down on accident when people would come over and talk to us. And it was too many times. So we thought it'd be funny to put a little sign for how many days we can go without him getting knocked over. So it says it's only business days. So it's how many business days without Daredevil incident. We got to 15, which was great. And a person who will remain nameless, who says they could go by the name Dark Shadow, their choice. Not my choice. Came over from out of town. We were having a nice conversation, and then he sees Daredevil, and he looks me straight in the eyes, and he whacks him off. And I think he doesn't wobble the same anymore after that.
I could interpret that very, very differently, but I'm just going to go with it.
And we were back down to 0, and I was very, very upset by it. So in retaliation, I poured a bunch of hole punches in his work bag. And he says he will get me back for that. So now there is an ongoing war. But what makes it so funny is a few days ago, I kind of put it together that this person who will remain nameless, also known as Dark Shadow, looks like Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Wilson Fisk on the Daredevil TV show. But he doesn't look like the Kingpin version. He looks like the younger version from Law and Order days. But I just think that the irony for all of that, because it's like a subconscious thing. He had no idea about it. I don't think he watches the show or really knows who that guy is. But it was like, no, you guys look alike. And now it just makes it even funnier that I have my own little mini Daredevil TV show right in my office.
Maybe he's just upset at Daredevil foiling his criminal escapades there.
Yeah. Or or no more seasons of the show, and he's just taking it too hard.
Or it could be a bit of a Men in Black thing, maybe. You know, maybe he's had a bit of a body snatching. You know, he's been infiltrated by an alien.
Well, I even joked, it was like, maybe Vincent D'Onofrio has been working at our office for the past 8 years, and this has been like a method acting thing too. So
he is very, very thorough.
Great. So, we never know.
Does he wear a white suit, Jamie?
No, this is just giving me too many more ideas for pranks. I don't think I'm going to have him listen to this episode now.
well, anybody who's not involved in the comic world calls themselves a Dark Shadow has problems anyway, Jamie. So just,
no. I don't want to get.
I'm only joking. I actually like that name. I like the fact that he's actually thought about it and said, "Just call me by an alias, Dark Shadow." That's very mysterious. So we like Dark Shadow actually. And also,
he's claiming it, so it's copyrighted. It's TM now. It's trademarked. It can only go to this person.
Yeah, we'll let him have that Dark Shadow. What about yourself, Dave? You think that's a pretty cool name, to be honest?
Yeah, no, it's not bad. Wasn't there a film with Johnny Depp called Dark Shadows or something?
It's Dark Shadows. It's from a 1970s TV show about vampires.
Okay.
But no comic book character named that, so because that's not technically.
Have you checked? Because I was just about to dig into the Golden Age archives because I thought, I wonder if there was one back in the day by some company that's now bust.
I haven't checked that. I only did like the span of like a minute of a 30-second Google search. But if you can find something else, I think we'll really disappoint. But
well, let's let him have it then. I won't go digging.
No, we won't. So we've got a couple of things happen this week on the. We wanted to talk about recently announced as we record this is the Disney Plus streaming service, which to be honest I was not excited about, but it's $6.99 or $69.99 a year, which even though there is a slight difference to the pound, we are going to get ripped off in the UK. But at $6.99, I'm actually quite invested in this because look at all the stuff that's on offer, including the History Channel stuff and the Geography Channel stuff. I'm actually going to be well into this. So I don't know what you think about that, Jamie.
Oh, I'm super excited. I'm a big Disney person. If I'm not like into comics, that yeah, I'm super excited. They're going to have a bunch of cool documentaries, new TV shows, stuff about Imagineering, which I really like. My husband and I are ready to buy Disney Plus. We're excited.
Yeah, me too. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely all in. It looks pretty exciting. I was just wondering, so Jamie, I mean, you're traditionally you lean more to the DC side. So have you not been tempted by the DC offering?
Not yet at this point. I've seen some of Titans and stuff, and I'm excited about Doom Patrol. But I know it's funny. My heart is more towards DC, but I'm also really into Disney. So I've got a massive divide going on, but no, I'm excited for Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to have a lot of stuff on there. And I think, timely with this announcement as well, you've had Kevin Feige come out and talk a little bit about Wanda and Vision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. The thing that was really heartening for me is that he said there's going to be ramifications throughout the MCU from these series. So we haven't really seen that in the Netflix series. We've had the odd bit of dialogue which acknowledges a wider world, but you never really see much evidence of it. But this really sounds like it's going to be knitted a lot tighter to the movies as well.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not too sure what the timeline will be because we don't know the outcome of Endgame, but I'm presuming it's going to be something afterwards. We'll see. Announcing it's a bit naughty, but we don't know what timeline it is. So just like when we talked about Spider-Man Far From Home, Dave, I think that's set before Endgame. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I genuinely had no interest in this. But having read and watched the press conferences this morning and what they're actually offering, I think it's a no-brainer at $6.99. I'm absolutely going to be coming all in. Definitely.
Absolutely. And I think, I was kind of speculating because in the comics, both of those Falcon and Winter Soldier characters have played Captain America when Cap's either been too old or dead at the time. And so I think I'm just assuming all of what they do tends to be in a linear timeline. So I'm maybe having to rethink. I wonder if either of those characters really are going to play Cap.
Yeah, I did see that online actually on Twitter. People saying, "Is this the series to fight for who actually plays him in the next run of the MCU films?"
Yeah. And also, another series they've talked about is a Hawkeye series. Now, I know this is a guy running about with a bow and arrow, but I've always really liked Hawkeye. When his traditional costume, that purple kind of costume, I just love it. And I think, given that what we spoke about a few weeks ago, there's a younger female character who took up the Hawkeye mantle. So with what we've seen from the trailer, for Endgame, with Hawkeye looking like he's in his ninja kind of Ronin persona, I'm just pretty sure we're going to get a younger kind of Kate Bishop in there. So I think that'll be really, really good. There was a writer called Matt Fraction, wrote a great series of Hawkeye, and I just hope it's going to be taking a lot of that on board, and I'm really excited, probably more so than Falcon and Winter Soldier and Wanda and Vision, to be honest.
Yeah. Good stuff. Now, also, going back to DC as well on this one, Jamie and Dave, is it's been announced that the Game of Thrones actor Ian Glenn is going to play Bruce Wayne in Titans Series 2. So I'm quite interested in that, how that goes on. We didn't really see anything with Bruce Wayne. He was always alluded to in Titans. I know you said you've not seen it yet, have you, Jamie?
Yeah, I've only seen a little bit of it. But I've been keeping up with who's new characters that they've been casting and everything. So I'm excited to see the dynamic between Batman and Robin now for this show. Not to segue into what we're going to talk about later, but I'm sure this dynamic will be much more interesting to watch.
Yeah, because the whole series alludes to Bruce and Batman, but you never actually see him as such, or do you? If you watch the series, I'm not saying anything, but we have reviewed it as well a couple of episodes back. If you want to get a taste of it, Jamie, just to plug another episode. But yeah, he's on board. I think it's a slight miscast, but I'll wait until I've actually seen him on the screen. What about yourself, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not having it. I mean, Ben Affleck was supposed to be the older, more grizzled Batman, and even though he never got his own movie, I thought it was a good casting myself. But with Ian Glenn, you're taking that idea of an older, more grizzled Batman and just ramping it up to 11. But I'm not having that. Ian Glenn has got that physical presence, so Ben Affleck had that physical presence, didn't he? And I'm just not having that Ian Glenn's ever had it. And, yeah, I mean, he's a great actor, in Game of Thrones, he's brilliant. He was in Downton Abbey, obviously. He's always good at whatever he does. But as Batman, I think that's a strange one, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, I've never really watched Game of Thrones. Sorry. When I did see pictures of him, I was like, okay, this person, there's a pretty big age gap between the casting of Dick Grayson and Batman with this. So I am curious to see, how that works, because I'm not sure how old Ian is, but that it is an interesting choice. I've never really watched Game of Thrones. I guess I'll have maybe a little more of a new kind of coming in, never really seeing him act before. I'll have more of a new take on it, so I'm curious.
I think in real life, he must be early to mid-50s, realistically. And the only good thing he's got going for him, I've got to say to both you, is he's actually a Manchester United fan. So he's going to be successful he's going to be successful in his role, Jamie, as supporting the greatest football team in the world. I'm very happy. That's why Dave said, "Oh my God," because he isn't a Manchester United fan. But anyway,
we'll see that in the Batcave. Are you hoping that we'll see some Manchester United and posters in the Batcave?
Yeah, a picture of David Beckham or Ronaldo. Yeah.
Well, it makes a bit more sense, because it won't mean anything to Jamie, but you watch Game of Thrones, don't you, Chris? And he's a bit over the hill. He's got delusions about getting with Khaleesi. Probably he's had his heyday. So yeah, Manchester United fan. That sounds about right.
Jamie, screen there. It'll go on to a different segue. This it will not be a comic podcast, so let's move on very quickly. So we have Jamie on as a special guest with us, helping us review, and as we've alluded to with our horrendous impressions, bar Jamie's, which was actually really good, we are going to review Batman and Robin. Dave, it's over to you for the comic background, my friend.
Well, we thought, we reviewed Batman Forever, didn't we, a few weeks ago, and we thought, you know what, this isn't as terrible as we remember. Let's watch Batman and Robin, because maybe that's just got a bit of a rough ride. Yeah, we'll get on to that one. But, I mean, there was lots of different ways I could tackle the comics background, but I've decided to focus on Mr. Freeze. Now, Mr. Freeze first appeared in Batman 121 back in 1959, though his name wasn't Mr. Freeze at the time, it was Mr. Zero, so he's clearly got self-esteem issues there. Now, Mr. Zero was created by writer Dave Wood and artist Sheldon Moladoff, and of course Bob Kane's there to take a bit of credit, as he likes to do. However, after he appeared in the 1960s Batman TV show as Mr. Freeze, he had an alias of Dr. Art Chevelle. This was brought into the comics in 1968 in Detective Comics 373. So Mr. Freeze from that point on. Now, he hasn't been in the comics that much, to be honest, but you fast forward 30 years and you get to not another comic, but the Batman animated series, where writer Paul Dini, now if you remember, he was basically the creator for Harley Quinn. He retold Mr. Freeze's origin, and he introduced his terminally ill and cryogenically frozen wife Nora as being the motivation to raise funds through criminal activity. Now, this retelling of a tragic character proved to be a turning point for this character. So this was brought into the comics as canon and really increased the popularity. But that was only a few years before this movie. And what had also changed as well, both in the animated series and in the comics, that they changed his name. I'm going to say it how it's spelled first. It was Dr. Victor Fries. But of course, you put a bit of a German accent there, and it's Dr. Victor Fries. So basically, from his original creation, both his supervillain name and his alter ego have changed. And it did make me think about Trigger in Only Fools and Horses. Again, I'm afraid another reference, Jamie. It's not going to mean a lot to you, but it's a comedy, and this guy is called Trigger. He's not the sharpest tool in the box. He said he's had this broom for 20 years. It's had 17 new heads and 14 new handles in that time. So anyway, now when DC rebooted their line in 2011 with the new 52, Scott Snyder, who I've mentioned a few times before, took a slightly different take on the character's origin. So he rewrote it and made it a little bit more sinister. So rather than Nora being Freeze's wife, Nora's family had placed her in cryogenic stasis after she was diagnosed with an incurable heart disease. And Freeze wrote his thesis on Nora for his doctorate and then took up a position at Wayne Enterprises where her body was being stored. And it was only there where he fell in love with her and then became obsessed with her. Now, Bruce Wayne shut the project down, being uncomfortable with Freeze's obsession with Nora, and Dr. Freeze threw a chair at Bruce only to miss and hit a bunch of cryogenic chemical tanks, which ended up spraying over him, and that's what turned him into Mr. Freeze. So I thought that was really interesting because you've had a bounce between the comics. First, the Batman 66 TV show, and then also the Batman animated series having a massive influence on this character. So I thought it was really interesting when I went to dig into this one. Now, Chris, how about the movie background?
Oh, my word. Do I have some movie background for you two today? So, after the financial success of Batman Forever in 1995, Warner Brothers immediately commissioned a sequel, and they hired Joel Schumacher on again with the same writer, Akiva Goldsman, both to reprise the roles. And they wanted to fast-track it for production for June 1997. It originally had a 3-year cycle, but they thought they'd strike while the iron is hot. I don't even think it was turned on with this one. But anyway, the iron may have been hot at some point. So Schumacher also wanted to pay homage to both the broad camp style of the 1960s television series and the work of Dick Sprang. We will definitely question that later, people, definitely. While Chris O'Donnell reprised his role of Robin, Val Kilmer decided not to reprise the role of Robin because he had a part in the film called The Saint, and it actually, his schedule didn't permit it. But also, Schumacher did say that he sort of quit, stroke, and we sort of fired him. And obviously, when we did Batman Forever, Jamie, I did allude to the fact that Val Kilmer, Tommy Lee Jones were an absolute nightmare on set, and Schumacher vowed he would never work with him ever again. So that's probably more likely with Val Kilmer. And obviously, with The Saint being one of the best films you've ever seen, The Rock raised eyebrows for all the people who can see me at the moment. He obviously made a great career path. Now, to replace Kilmer, they'd actually gone down the route of getting William Baldwin, I like William Baldwin. He was really good in Sliver, and he was really good in Backdraft, which is a great film with Kurt Russell. So he more of a younger tone as well. But in the end, they went with George Clooney. Now, George Clooney around this time, 96, had been in Dusk Till Dawn, which I absolutely love. Great character. He was still in ER as well while they were filming this. He was coming towards his run then, and George Clooney's stock was rising, so they thought, we'll go with something slightly different, slightly more charismatic. They said they wanted Clooney to provide a lighter interpretation of Michael Keaton's Batman and Kilmer's. So we will definitely be talking about that very soon again. Now, for Mr. Freeze, I find this really interesting. Now, something I mentioned in the first couple of episodes of the podcast, Jamie, we did Superman, was Marlon Brando absolutely ripped the makers of Superman 1 and 2 financially and made a lot of money. Now, Arnie got $25 million for playing Mr. Freeze in this one, and I think he actually got more money than anyone else in this film because at the time,
top billed. He's the
he's top billed again, like they did with Jack Nicholson in the 1989 Batman. You're completely right. I mean, originally they had considered Patrick Stewart to play Mr. Freeze, but Arnie decided to go for it. He refused to shave his hair, decided to wear a bald cap, and he also decided he was going to wear blue LEDs in his mouth. Again, I don't know what for, but that's exactly what he went with. Now, filming-wise, Chris O'Donnell actually said, and I quote, "It just felt like everything got a little soft the second time. On Batman Forever, I felt like I was making a movie. The second time, I felt like I was making a kid's toy commercial." Now, John Glover, who is Smallville, and I'm putting my hands down, he's not worthy because I loved him as Lionel Luthor in Smallville. He plays Dr. Jason Woodrue. I'm going to quote him here because this is something me and Dave have had a lot of fun with this week when we've been talking about this. He said Joel would sit on a crane with a megaphone and yell before each take, "Remember, everyone, this is a cartoon." And he thought it was a hard act. It was a hard act because that kind of set the tone for the film. And Chris O'Donnell also said that despite hanging out with Arnie on set, he never actually filmed any scenes with him. They had to use stand-ins. Even though they worked together every day, they never actually filmed anything together, which is, I didn't see that when I was watching it, but, you know, which is a good one. Now, marketing-wise, they threw $15 million at this with an overall budget of $140 million. I am going to question that when we watch it as well, people, definitely. Now, this is when it gets interesting. So, Batman and Robin was released on the 20th of June 1997 in North America. And the first weekend, it made $42 million, which is down on Batman Forever, which at the time made something like $54 million, which at that point was actually record-breaking until the Jurassic Park sequel came in and overtaken it. In its second week, because it was so poorly received, it declined by 63%, which at the time was really, really bad. So overall, it still made a profit, but only just. It made $238.2 million worldwide, so it only gave them a profit of $70 million. And offsetting various other marketing and that went with it, it was pretty much a flop. Now, this is where it gets really good. Critically, before I get into the scores, I mentioned this for today privately, but Joel Schumacher's actually sent out an apology for people for his work on the film. He's actually come out in public many times and apologised for the effort of the film. Now, on Rotten Tomatoes, after 86 reviews, it's at a Hellboy 10%, with an average rating of 3.7 out of 10. On Metacritic, slightly better, 28% out of 100 based on 21 critics' reviews. Now, this last scoring metric is the cinema score audience polls, which I always mention is a bit more lifelike and a bit more for us cinema goers who are just not, normal people, normal reviewers. But at that, it's one of the lowest ones we've actually scored. It's at a C+, and I think that's a very favourable C+, which goes from an A+ to an F scale. So it's pretty much on the lower end. Now, Batman and Robin was actually nominated at the Saturn Awards for the Best Fantasy Film. Don't know what was going on that day when they were giving it. Exactly. Best Makeup and Best Costume, but he didn't win anything. Alicia Silverstone won the Razzie Award for the Worst Supporting Actress. Yeah, that's getting more like...
I was like, she won, and then it was like, okay, Razzies, got it.
Yeah. Now, there was slightly a bit of controversy as well with Joel Schumacher, because there was a lot of things to do with the dynamic duo's butts and back crotches and nipples. There was all sorts of things thrown at Schumacher, and basically Schumacher went down the route of saying, I have no idea that putting nipples on the Batsuits and Robin's suit would go to spark international headlines. The bodies of the suits come from ancient Greek statues which display perfect bodies. They are anatomically correct. Chris O'Donnell, who portrayed Robin, said, it wasn't so much the nipples that bothered me, it was the codpiece. The press obviously played it up and made a big deal. I didn't think twice about the controversy, but going back and looking and seeing some of the pictures, it was very unusual. Now, George Clooney, who admitted to purposely taking a subtle gay approach to his portrayal, later said, Joel Schumacher told me Batman was gay. Possibly admitting to Schumacher's meddling in the source material. Clooney himself spoke at critically of the film. I think we might have killed the franchise and called it a waste of money. Now, in 96, before this came out, they'd actually commissioned and hired Schumacher and hired a guy called Mark Protasevich to write the script for the 5th film in the Batman series, Batman Unchained. But thankfully, it was cancelled before the 1999 release after this absolute amazing film we see before us. So that's all I've got on the movie. I was so excited to research this because it's just ridiculous. And there's only one thing to say, guys. We've got to go into our review.
Let's go for it.
Hey, this is Danielle.
And this is Sarah.
And we're the Mysterious Midwest Podcast.
That's us.
We're here.
So we'll be dropping episodes weekly about the ookiest and spookiest happenings in the Midwest.
From cryptids to hauntings and creatures that go bump in the night.
Be sure to join us for a laugh, because we do a lot of that.
Yup.
And a drink while we talk about the strange and unusual.
You can find us at mysteriousmidwestpod.com, and we're downloadable on wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And we are all about that social media, so feel free to find us.
Find us
on Facebook at Mysterious Midwest Podcast.
Yep, we're there.
Instagram at Mysterious Midwest.
Yep, lots of selfies.
And don't forget about Twitter at Mist Midwest.
Yes, please. Find us on all the things. You won't regret it even a little bit.
Not at all. Hey, guys, say on your way home tonight, watch for deer.
Okay, bye.
Batman and Robin spring into action to thwart Mr. Freeze from robbing diamonds from the Natural History Museum. Freeze is trying to fund his research into finding a cure for his terminally ill and cryogenically frozen wife. Diamonds also power his weapons, so he needs quite a lot of money and quite a lot of robbing to fund him. Over at Wayne Enterprises in Brazil, deranged Dr. Woodroot who's Floronic Man in the comics, experiments with the venom drug on serial killer Antonio Diego, turning him into muscle-bound Bane. Botanist Dr. Pamela Isley sees the whole thing, and after threatening to expose Woodrue and him trying to kill her with toxins, she turns into the seductive Poison Ivy. She kills Woodrue, teams up with Bane, and heads to Gotham, where Barbara Wilson has turned up at Wayne Manor to see her uncle Alfred Pennyworth. Now, guys, what did you make to this opening part of the movie?
I've got plenty to say, but it's only fair that we say ladies first. Jamie, over to you.
Oh, thank you. I mean, the funny thing is, this is the first Batman movie I ever watched when I was a kid, and it's weird. I was a weird kid. I also had a huge crush on Arnold Schwarzenegger when I was a little kid. So I was like, I think at the beginning I was like all excited. I was like, yay, he's in this movie, and then I still couldn't save it for me. But even that opening fight sequence when I was watching, and I watched this movie on a plane, which I was afraid I was going to get a lot of judgment. Nobody said anything, but I felt like I got a lot of silent judgments, whoever saw it. Out of all the movies I could pick, I'm watching this movie and taking notes, so I look like a real weirdo. But that first fight sequence, like, how far have we come from doing stunt choreography? Because this is more like a stage play or like an ice show, really, than any kind of superhero stakes fighting. The weapons are hockey sticks. There's no guns. It's amazing. And
what about, sorry to cut across you, Jamie, what about when Batman and Robin are on the backs and all of a sudden they've got bat skates on and they just stick their heels? I was like, what is this nonsense?
Oh, no, I don't know. It's shocking. It's just shocking.
I mean, Chris, what did you make to it?
It's like, I always remember I bought this after Batman Forever's being a big DC fan. I bought them on video and I had them in my collection, and genuinely watching this back, I think I have only ever watched this once, and there was some things I couldn't remember. There was plenty I remember, and I was thinking, oh my God. But genuinely, this fight scene, Jamie's so right. It was like you'd gone to a theatre or you'd gone to one of these Dancing on Ice shows, like a Disney on Ice show and that, because it makes no sense however, if they're trying to pay homage to the Adam West series from the 60s, it's an absolute disgrace. It's actually offensive to Adam West and Burt Ward as well. I genuinely would have this fight, and Jamie, you are so right. The choreography, I mean, George Clooney, when he's like trying to dodge punches and that, he's so wooden. He's even worse than some of his acting in this. He's terrible. It's just so, it's nonsense. It's funny. It's so funny because when they pull the skates out, I was like, where does that come from? There's been no mention you've got skates. And then all of a sudden, Batman and Robin are like proper NHL hockey players and can just, they can skate anywhere around it.
And they can fly too. Exactly. Like, it's not even like their capes are helping. They can literally jump 20 feet across the whole museum. And it's just effortless. It's so graceful. 10 points.
It's not Tanya Harding, is it? I've watched that film by Tanya. Now, to be fair, I'm not stealing Dave's thunder. Dave, please mention, I'll leave this over to you. You've got to mention what you said to me about Arnie, because I absolutely love this week.
Well, I guess I'll start with my first impressions, though, because I went into this with pretty open mind. I don't know if you heard, Jamie, but I mean, we both sent Batman Forever to the Hall of Justice because there's so much wrong with the movie, but actually you can have a bit of fun, and it does walk that line of being so bad it's good. But honestly, watching this within the first few minutes, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, the cinematography is just awful. It's all so obviously a studio. And Jamie, you're so right that it just looks like a high school play or something. The lighting's all off. It's just awful. And I found myself getting a bit angry. It was so bad. I was like, I just can't believe it. And I'm not sure I've ever actually watched it all the way through. And so we've watched some real turkeys, but I was sat there and I was just thinking, I can't believe I'm spending my time doing this and watching this absolute garbage. And I thought, it's got so many what you would think would be redeeming qualities. I mean, quite like Alicia Silverstone. I thought Chris O'Donnell, he's decent. He was decent in the last movie. Arnie, always been a massive fan of Arnie. I think he's great in everything. But Arnie just had a pun gun. I mean, he literally had no dialogue other than puns. And I just couldn't believe it. And obviously, Arnie with his puns are brilliant, aren't they? In Terminator, in Predator, all the things that he does, the puns are the best bit. But you've got to have him say something else as well. And I just couldn't believe it at just how poor that was. And I have to say, Chris, you mentioned before that Patrick Stewart was also considered. I wondered would they have kept the script the same? Can you imagine Patrick Stewart saying, like, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
He just kept going, didn't he? Threes. And it's just like, bye. I was just like, oh. And Jamie, I'm with you. I am an absolute Arnold Schwarzenegger fan. I got into doing, I've always gone to the gym because of Arnie, lifting weights and that. He's an absolute idol of mine. I've got Pumping Iron over there, the special edition DVDs. I love Arnie. I watch Pumping Iron at least once a month. I absolutely love him. But this, even Arnie's reining this in at 25 million, he must have been laughing all the way to the bank. He must have been thinking, how the hell am I getting paid all this money?
Listen, Dr. Victor Fries isn't the super criminal here. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger for taking all that money for this movie.
He's the real thief.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I tell you who's probably worse than George Clooney in this. I've got all my hands up here. I remember being younger thinking she was really attractive, but I think Uma Thurman's absolutely terrible in this. I don't know where she was coming from with this character. I don't know about you guys, but I thought she was absolutely awful in this. Really, really bad.
It is funny. Another podcast reviewed this called How Did This Get Made? And they thought that she got bit by a Greta Garbo plant because her voice is so... It's like she's making choices. Some people are just there, but she's like, she's doing something, whether that works or not. I mean, I can say that all the portrayals for the most part in this movie are so like such a spit in the face to the original like comic book characters. I'll get more into Bane and my feelings on Gordon later, but for her too, it's just like, it's odd to me.
I think she was going for some kind of like 50s seductress type thing, wasn't she? But it was off. It was just terrible. I mean, she's great in other things, but with this, I mean, I have to say it because there's no one for me comes out of this with any credit. Everyone is terrible and yet have done great things elsewhere. So yeah. I'm sorry, I've got to lay this at the door of Joel Schumacher. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's got to be from the direction that people are taking for this.
Yeah, I agree. And bear in mind, Uma Thurman got this role off the back of Pulp Fiction. She was Marcella Wallace's missus in it, wasn't she, his wife? So her and John Travolta's dance is absolutely, it's iconic, really, even now, 23 years later. But this is, I agree with you, Dave. I just think, I mean, George Clooney as Batman, he's so wooden and so patronising to every single person in this. Every time he does a speech to someone where he's trying to give them a bit of guidance, and at least with Val Kilmer, when he was talking, it was all done for serious. When Clooney's doing it, he's the smarmy doctor off ER. He's just like, he's not very convincing. You've got like the bit where he's got Elle Macpherson. Now she's the most wooden person in it. She's his girlfriend. There's no backstory to it. She's just there on his arm every time he goes to a social event. And it makes no... And then, I've got to say, I mean, it might be later on this, what about the line he dropped in about the actual telescope going around the world? And he went, they can see anywhere. And he went, I hope they don't see into my bedroom. I was like, oh, my God.
Thinks he's James Bond, doesn't he?
It was just terrible. I was like, come on, George, you better. I love George Clooney. I loved, my missus absolutely loved him when he was in ER. She had a proper crush on him. She's always liked George. But I tell you what, this is, for me, was even a stretch for me. I couldn't take him. I was like, George, come on, mate, you're better than this. He's the only thing I'd say, and I said this to Dave, Jamie, is when we get introduced to Barbara Wilson, obviously, now, bear in mind, she's flew all the way from the UK, right? She's got a school uniform on, and they've let her on a plane because obviously she's under 16. Chris O'Donnell fancies her. She's underage. And then on top of that, she's got the weirdest uncle-niece relationship I've ever seen, because the way she looked at Alfred was not the way I've ever seen a niece look at an uncle. It was like, I think she's going to go in for a kiss in a minute. I was thinking, this is all sorts of wrong, you know. And then she says, I'm from the UK and speaks just a normal American accent. I was like, oh, this is terrible.
Well, what they didn't say was that she stopped in California on her way from London to back to Gotham, so she got all that Valley Girl in her, and then stopped. So,
for how many years?
Like right off the set of Clueless, and I love Clueless.
Yeah.
But no, it is.
Which
funny.
is ironic for this movie, isn't it? Because there's so much Clueless about all of it. I mean, Jamie, I know you're a big Batgirl fan. I mean, obviously we're dealing with Barbara Wilson here, obviously to throw us from the original character. But I think this is the first, ignoring the Batman 66 in the movies. I think this was the first we saw a Batgirl, isn't it?
Yeah, and we haven't seen one since, and it makes me sad that this is like the right. DC has talked about making a standalone Batgirl movie, and I'm super excited about it. But it's funny to like completely derive, like now she's related to Alfred, and I guess I can see from the point that Gordon is basically non-existent in this universe for the Schumacher movies. I feel so bad for the Gordon character because he's such an idiot. They make him out to be such an idiot, and there's no relationship between him and Batman. The cops in Gotham are just terrible, like completely, like they can't do anything.
They've just got the easiest job in the world, though, haven't they?
They just fall down.
There's a crime. Oh, let's put up the bat signal.
Yeah, like it's literally there are no help. So it's funny that let's make her Alfred's niece. Age gap is questionable, and when is the last time they've seen each other? Because if she's so young, when is Alfred have been taking time off? Like, I gotta go see my family, or she's been coming there, because they couldn't have seen each other in at least 10 years. Yes, they maybe like talked, but this is also before like any kind of like Skype or anything like that. So she's like totally like, I love you, I miss you, but yeah.
Well, I've never met you before.
What I love, though, is the fact that his sister, her mum, who looks about 50 in the picture's from like the 1930s.
Yeah.
And then she's even signed it. And he went, oh, that's the name I give to her. What was it? Whatever he calls her.
Peg.
Well, it was Peg, yeah. It was an absolute like Vaseline smeared screen picture like they used to use years ago.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the funny thing is, like, that woman, and I recognize her because this is also the same time, like, she's from a Shirley Temple movie. And it's the same, they have a picture of her in that movie, and it's the same one. And that movie was made in, like, the 50s. So, I would love to see that family tree, because, and, like, this is when you were born. Like, there's something.
There's a lot of family secrets there. Loads of skeletons in that closet, I tell you.
But Davey, you know what? You're so polite because it's so. And I must admit, some of the comments me and Dave have dropped in this, especially me, I've been really bad on this because I don't necessarily think it's Alfred. I think it's just Alicia Silverstone's just like, she's doing the puppy dog eyes, the real like, oh, I'm so innocent. You know, she sees the motorbike, she sees Dick's bike, and it's like, she's like, oh, I'm so scared of one of them. I was like, oh, come on, even I can see through that act, like you obviously like bikes. It was really, it's just terrible. And then how can Joel Schumacher have gone on the cutting table floor and watched this and gone, right, guys, we've nailed it. This is going to beat Michael Keaton. This is going to beat Michael Keaton and his curly wig and everything and his run. It's just not. It's just awful. I'm sorry. I know we're only a third of the way, Dave, and I'm really, as you can tell, I'm really passionate about how absolutely bobbins this film is.
I mean, what did you guys make to Bane?
What a
Bad.
Again, like one of the smartest Batman villains is like shrunken down to this like two words. Like the man only knows like 2 or 3 words and doesn't even really fight Batman once. Like, what was the choice to even put him in the film at that point?
I think they were just trying to chuck everything at it, weren't they? Because, like I say, they had Dr. Woodrue there, the Floronic Man, and it's like, well, he creates Bane and Poison Ivy, and then he's killed off, and it's like they've just tried to chuck everything at it. But I guess the weird thing I thought is you've cast Arnie,
yeah,
and he just stays in the suit, and it's Bane flexing the muscles.
Yeah, it's weird to think that the training for I don't think George Clooney set 1 foot in the gym, and I don't, because what are you fighting? And it's not like he's in bad shape. I'm just like, but what do you, like, in comparison to Ben Affleck, where we were like watching him train in the Batcave, but there's no stunts to really fight. He's throwing a punch. He could throw a punch at like half speed, and one of these guys will fall down. It's like, I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. And like the people who are like the bulkiest are thrown off to the side and not even really used.
I agree, Jamie. I think as well, the way they set up this with Bane was obviously we get the skinny guy who's been taken from jail or Arkham and he's a killer and all this and he's real nasty, but he's got the weediest body ever. I mean, just to totally, sort of highlight how big he's going to turn and they put a Lucha Librador Mexican wrestling mask on him with some yellow tubes with a bit of neon lights in, and then all of a sudden he even says to him, doesn't he, we're putting him with my special serum and some steroids. And I'm thinking, well, you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger there who was a professional bodybuilder. And what was bad at this time with this film, Jamie and Dave, is Arnie actually had his first bypass while he was filming this, because I remember reading a story, George Clooney saying that he had his bypass and the next morning he was on a bike exercising and he was bench pressing weights because he was playing Mr. Freeze. So they actually sort of stopped production at one point while he actually went through this operation, Arnie. And that, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, is because of his years bodybuilding, and that's all I'll say on that. But I love Arnie, and that's why he wasn't as big in this, Dave, as well, for that reason. But he still trained. He trained like Jamie, but we never saw him with his top off or anything.
You know what? I saw some fairly unkind headlines because he was pictured on the beach and whatever, and it's like, the guy's 60-odd. Of course, he's not. He's not Conan the Barbarian anymore, but he still looks pretty damn good for his age. I'm with you. Yeah. I think he's great. I have to say, this is possibly the worst movie I've seen him in, and I've seen Twins.
I don't mind twins. I like twins.
And Jingle All the Way is my husband's favorite Christmas movie.
Oh, really?
I love that. Turbo Man. That's a great film. Yeah. So good film.
Well, even going back, like, side note, like the new pictures for Terminator Dark Fate came out, and they have one of the images for him, and he looks great. Like, I'm excited. He
is just so driven, isn't he? And I guess, you could say after that kind of operation and, the amount of money he was getting paid, but I don't think it's anything to do with how much he's getting paid. He's got paid because he was at the height of his powers around then. Mm-hmm. The fact that he's back there in the gym, that's just him. He's so dedicated and driven.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. And as the great man says, Dave and Jamie, and I love this quote, you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. And that's all I'll say. That's how much I love Arnie. But again, this was no Terminator. This wasn't the Running Man, and this wasn't Commando. This was just something, something else. But yeah, what a strong, terrible start to the first part of the film.
Bruce declines a pitch from Dr. Pamela Isley for a project which would help the environment, though it would also kill millions of people. That night, Mr. Freeze crashes a Wayne Enterprises charity event and steals a diamond. Batman and Robin spring into action, but Freeze escapes with the help of Poison Ivy and Bane. Batman and Robin have some working relationship difficulties due in no part to Poison Ivy's seductive abilities, and Robin is captured by Ivy, though not killed by her deadly kiss, thanks to his rubber bat lips. Barbara finds the Batcave, like pretty much everyone does, where an artificial intelligence Alfred reveals to her her very own Batgirl suit, which she dons and heads to save Robin with Batman. Now, guys, if you thought the first half was bad, what did you make to this middle section here?
Are all the diamonds just living in Gotham? Like, I'm just curious. Like that was one of the things. Like there's just like an influx. I'm like, he doesn't have to go anywhere else. But like all the diamonds like are right at his disposal in Gotham. I just find that detail just really funny.
Yeah, I was saying, Jim, as well. What I think is when Batman and Robin are chasing Mr. Freeze, and he jumps out, and he's got the sort of wings on. Now, in this film, the laws of physics do not apply whatsoever. So, Batman and Robin are chasing Bane to get this diamond. He's got this sort of suit on where he looks like a bird with the wings.
Because it looks like a butterfly.
Yeah. It looks like a butterfly. So he's like descending down with the diamond in his hand. He hasn't got a bag or a rucksack or a satchel or anything. He's just got it in his hand, conveniently. About 30 seconds later, Batman and Robin jump off, and they are literally behind Bane. Now, no person in this world, no matter how good you are with physics, could catch up to somebody that quick. But they caught up to him. And then when Batman jumps on Mr. Freeze, he throws the diamond backwards, about 100 foot in the air. Again, totally defying physics, and we get Robin catching it like, gotcha. It's like, no, that does not work. And this just goes on through the whole film. These different scenes where it makes no physiological sense whatsoever. And I am not a clever person when it comes to science and stuff like that. Even I can't take away from that and go, that would never, ever happen. Ever in my life have I seen anything like this. And I question sometimes if Joel Schumacher, what he actually was doing with this film, because dialing it in isn't even in it. It's just an absolute... And then Poison Ivy comes in and she's putting the serum into everyone, and obviously Robin falls in love with her and stuff, and she's like, come with me. There's lots to be said for a young guy with stamina. I'm thinking, this is supposed to be a kid's film, it's supposed to be a cartoon, and she's basically saying, I fancy a bit of a young lad. And then when eventually Batman does capture Mr. Freeze and he puts him into Arkham, did you notice who one of the guards was, Dave? Who the two guards are together, aren't they? And they've got Mr. Freeze in the bed where there's just the frozen bit is on his bed, isn't it? And
are you asking me if I picked up a little bit of nuance there? No. I was too busy slamming my face into the wall, thinking, what am I doing with my life watching this garbage?
What about yourself, Jamie? Did you pick up on what one of the guards was?
I know he's a wrestler. I can't remember his name.
Jamie's got it. Dave, it's actually Jesse the Body Ventura who was in Predator. The Arnie. He was the guy with the moustache
and the hat.
Yeah, and the hat. He's a very, very good friend. He was in Running Man as well. He was Captain Inferno or something like that in Running Man. But he's a very good friend of Arnie. So when they go in, and as soon as he started speaking, at the time he was a commentator, but him and Arnie have always, he was in wrestling. Him and Arnie have always been good friends. So he starts talking to him. And then he says something like, what's your name? He goes, Mr. Freeze, you will remember my name. And then just like whacks him a bit. and then obviously he ends up with this thing, doesn't he, when he's going back to his bed. I think that's the only bit of acting Arnie did when he had to get back to the bed because of the ice. But it's just so many things wrong. I can't even list them. It's that much.
I bet he's glad that Arnie got him that role, isn't he?
Well, he died within about 30 seconds, but yeah, he did. What about yourself, Dave?
Oh, I just thought it was awful. I'll hand over to Jamie.
No, there's another detail when you were talking about the laws of physics, and at one point when I guess they're at Freeze's lair and Batman and Robin are fighting, because I just think it's funny that part of their whole what's breaking them apart is they're fighting over a woman and whining, and it's just kind of funny. But at one point, when Robin falls into ice cream, I guess a big vat of ice cream, his cape looks so heavy. These capes are made out of a pleather or something, and I don't understand. They look so uncomfortable to wear. Aside from the nipples, which is a whole thing. These capes, they're just rubber heavy suits that have no, and they're I don't understand. I'm looking at it, and he's washing all the ice cream off, and he's so mad. I'm like, that cape looks like it weighs 50 pounds. You are not running around in this suit. And even when Batgirl's suit comes on, and I'm looking at it, and the way it just swooshes, I'm like, that's a heavy cape. And then we look at the gracefulness of Nolan's beautiful capes, and that are specifically made to fall, and That's one of the other details that I'm just this cape is too heavy.
I've got to say, I don't know. I've got to say, though, who the hell decided that Batman and Robin are going to bid millions of pounds of poison ivy in an auction, and then it was going to be a wise decision for Batman to pull out his back credit card and go, I'd never leave home without it. I was like, what the hell is this?
I just
When does he use it?
That.
I'd like to see him like go to 7-Eleven and like he's like, I don't have any cash, and he brings this out, and like I don't know, like when does this come up? Like who did he get it from? Like I have so many questions.
It's just I couldn't believe the back credit card. I had my head in my hands, just thinking, oh, I don't believe this.
The thing is, Jamie, I know Dave so well, and he tolerates a lot more than me. I literally will react and go, that's absolutely terrible. But I know with this, he was feeling exactly like I feel when he set me up with some of the rubbish you've had to review. Because when he did the credit card, I just thought of you, Dave. I thought, thinking, oh, and then you messaged me, didn't you, going, back credit card?
I do have to say, though, because, again, everyone's just so bad in this movie. And like you say, George Clooney was coming to prominence years before, he was in ER and started to really gather some momentum. He was in, was it the Revenge of the Killer Tomatoes or something like that? Really awful movie. But, I was expecting big things from this. It's just awful. But, I think was it a year before that? He was in one of my favorite movies ever, From Dusk Till Dawn, directed by Rodriguez and Tarantino. And so I have to confess this. So as my alarm clock, the thing that wakes me up in the morning is the tune After Dark by Tito and the Tarantulas. So, the one where Salma Hayek is doing the little sexy snake dance. Yeah. That wakes me up every morning. And when I saw Poison Ivy doing a weird striptease, pulling off this pink bear or something like that. Suit. With George Clooney there, I couldn't help but think of From Dusk Till Dawn, and I'm thinking, are they trying to parody that scene or something? It was just so weird. I couldn't believe it.
It was like a stage show. Yeah, like, I'm coming out, here I come, I got Corey. Like, again, another detail not explained. How did she infiltrate this whole thing and be like, guess what, guys, I'm coming down, I'm going to be wearing this gorilla suit, and I'm going to come down at this point in the show. And I'm going to get all these guys to walk, and I'm going to walk over you, and then we're going to go on the stage, and then I'm going to do my thing. Again, a detail we'll never know, but it's just kind of funny. Like, everybody's on board with the choreography, and we get more hockey players ready to skate inside this arena.
It's just, as we're talking about it, Jamie, it sounds more ridiculous when we're saying it than that. Even when you watch it, it's ridiculous. But as you say it, you're thinking, there's no logical... I mean, this sort of stuff wasn't even in the comics, Dave, and I've not even read them, and I'm pretty certain this nonsense wasn't in the comics. It's just absolutely an abomination of a film. It's brilliant. It's so good because it's so goddamn bad. That's how... It's one of them things where your jaw is literally being pushed up from the floor the whole way through. You're just like... all I kept thinking of all the time, I'll be honest with both of you, my God, Dave is hating every single minute of this.
But like I say, even the Arnie puns can't save it because they're just so bad. I mean, I think I mentioned it before if Patrick Stewart was doing it, but that one about what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. It's like, Arnie, mate, it's not funny. I mean, on no level is that a good pun or, a so bad it's good pun. It's just, what? It's like one of those ice puns where it's just before lunch, all the writers are in there and they know what the punchline is going to be. It's going to be the Ice Age is the punchline, but what can we have building up to that? It's like, guys, lunch is here. I don't know, what killed the dinosaurs? There we go. Arnie, go make that happen. It's just awful.
I honestly think, as a side note, I'm going to defend Arnie now, Jamie, so you'll be happy with this. Mm-hmm. Arnie's most successful role over anything was Terminator. I love Terminator 2 better, but Terminator put him on the map. He'd been in Hercules in 1969. He'd been in Pumping Iron. He'd been in various other films. But Terminator in 1983, 1984, put him on the map, and he literally had something like 3 lines of dialogue, I think, for the whole film. So and they weren't lines. Obviously, he went into I'm going to do an impression for you now, Dave. He goes into the gun shop, and the guy says something about the gun, and he goes, Uzi 9mm. And he goes, wrong, and then shoots it. And then obviously in the second one, you get, I want your clothes, your boots, your motorcycle, and all that stuff. But he doesn't say a lot. In the second one, he brings it out of him because Edward Furlong's, bringing him out of him, saying different things and stuff, and hasta la vista, baby. But this was like they said to Arnie, right, we've done you a script. We know that the best stuff you do is when you're not speaking very much. A bit like Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is great in stuff like John Wick and that because he doesn't say a lot. And in The Matrix as well, when he goes past 2 or 3 lines of dialogue in one sort of pitch there, you lose Keanu Reeves, in my opinion, and that's like that with Arnie. And a bit like Stallone as well. Stallone's the same. He can't work off something when he's got to be too serious. At times, some of his speeches are brilliant, as I've got one of them in front of me from Rocky, but they work for me more, and I think that's what they did with Arnie. They just thought, this is the formula, let's go with it. But when he's trying to be funny, Arnie, in Twins and Jingle All the Way, he's not really a comedian. He's more the straight man, isn't he? He's good when he's got a comedy person with him. When he's more a straight man. So this was just all types of wrong casting and everything, and the writing is just beyond belief.
Yeah, I can't really add to that. I mean, it was just it's just like, someone said, if you have a cake, let's say you got a nice big Black Forest Gatto cake there, and you say, you know what, my favourite bit is the cherry on top. You know what, let's just have a big bowl of cherries instead. It's not quite the same, is it? So just because the best bit about Arnie is some of his one-liners, you don't only give him that to do, And so it's just, I could not believe it, because it sounds like we're exaggerating, doesn't it? That his only dialogue is just when he's saying puns on ice. It's not. It's all that he says.
Yeah. I agree. But yeah, fantastic middle section of it again. And this is obviously going to come close to Avengers Endgame, guys. I'll be honest with you now. I'll reveal my hand now, I'll be honest with you.
I also found it funny that it's almost in the same formula as Batman Forever, where we have 2 very big Batman villains teaming up in a way that doesn't make any sense for the Riddler and Two-Face to team up. And then we have 2 very different motivations for this, and I think Schumacher thought we can just do it again. We'll just make it work, and it's really odd. I think he really thought he was coming off a big high off of Batman Forever and was like, we'll do it again. It works before.
Well, I think you're right. He was coming off a big high, and I did speculate with Chris where some of that budget went. Because it ain't on cinematography or writers.
Those sets are massive. Every single set is just so massive. And I've never seen a superhero movie pay more attention to costuming and sets rather than special effects. Well, sound effects, I'm sure, cost a doozy in this movie to get all of those fake punches and cha-chings and all of that. But nothing went to, I don't think they paid a stunt choreographer. I think they paid somebody from a theater production or an ice show. And yeah, I would love to see the breakdown of money.
No, Jamie, you completely missed the point there. They didn't pay any acting coaches, let alone anything else. So when they do what the heck they want. You are correct. I agree. I felt it feels quite contained. It feels quite claustrophobic. I've said this before. I don't understand how the actual budget for the film was 125 million. It was 140 with the marketing, but 125 on the film. And I cannot for the life of me see where that money went. I genuinely cannot see it, because I'm thinking this is like a TV movie at times, especially when they're at Wayne Manor and they're Barbara escaping and that. It's all it's a bit like the original X-Men when Logan takes, Scott's bike and everything, and it felt a bit like that when she kept escaping. I know this was done before then, actually saying that, so it's the other way around, but I don't know, it just...
Well, because in the ways that I've heard, it looks like a big toy commercial, and it looks like they just marketed all these things, because they get second suits. They change suits between being in Poison Ivy's lair to getting ice suits and ice themed transportation, like an ice bike, and like it's just and yet those sets look really claustrophobic, and they look like they've been rehoused. Like they keep like they just rethemed a lot of sets, and they're just so odd. I just have so many questions.
It's like a stage production. I mean, it would go quite well, wouldn't it? It is about the production quality. You know, when you're on a Saturday morning, you know, and you're watching some cartoons with the kids or something, and then they have the adverts on and they're advertising toys. That is the production quality of this movie. You know, so it would work quite well there, I think.
I agree. But the main thing now, as we talk about this, is thank God we're getting to the final act, Dave. So do you want to tee us up on that one, Dave?
Yeah, so, I mean, I have written in my notes here, final act, thank the heavens.
This is the film, sorry, Dave, to cut across you. This is the film that me especially wish that we were an explicit podcast, because I would absolutely be effing, jeffing, every other word. I'd have an off in it, I'm telling you, because it's absolutely atrocious. We're being too polite for how bad this film is, guys. And I genuinely mean that for anyone listening. It is that. And our good friend, Tony Farina, as well, who's been a real good supporter of the podcast. Just quickly move off slightly on the review. I want to thank him as well for sponsoring me for my run I'm doing in a few weeks. I'm going as Captain America, Jamie, doing it for a local cancer charity. And Tony, who's been a big supporter of the podcast, has actually sponsored me. So big thanks to him. And Tony, also, I can only apologise for this review, my friend. If you do watch it, please tell us what you think.
Batman, Robin and Batgirl team up and go after Freeze together, who's been busy freezing the whole of Gotham. Bane attacks Batgirl and Robin, but they defeat him, stopping his flow of venom, transforming him back to Antonio Diego. Batman, after battling with Freeze, shows him a recording of Poison Ivy saying she's killed his wife, but he's rescued her and moved her to Arkham Asylum, waiting for Freeze to finish his research. In return for this, Freeze gives Batman his cure for McGregor's syndrome, which is what Alfred had been suffering from, and Alfred is cured and Freeze is about to make his cellmate, Poison Ivy's life, a living hell, which I think he means he's going to play this movie over and over for her again.
There's no way that was on IMDb, Dave.
No, these synopses, they're all written by my own fair hand here. So, but I do think that, you know, that would be a living hell.
Yep.
So, guys, what did you make to this, apart from being a joyous event when you see the credits roll up?
There you go again, Jamie.
Yeah, so we get Batgirl or Barbara. I even found this part funny when she's she's supposed to be a great hacker, computer science major, very intelligent. It takes her, they stop showing when she's trying to type in passwords and she keeps getting access denied. I noticed on the screen they stopped showing the attempts because it would show how many attempts she got every time she did it. And they cut it towards the end. I was like, how many attempts did it take you to just get in there and figure out what the password was for your uncle, who you know so well and love so much? And then even like getting in there and like she's got no training, but Alfred's got her side. Again, you haven't seen your uncle in forever. He's got your measurements down for 2 suits, and
again,
you're ready to go.
All kinds of wrong there. All kinds of wrong.
Yeah.
So I just find that funny, and even her fight which is probably the most choreographed fight, is between her and Poison Ivy. And even when Poison Ivy pulls out the smallest, dullest knife of all time, even Barbara's like, I don't know if I want to be in this fight anymore. It's just funny.
I like that, Jim. Yeah, because it's like a little kid's toy with a blue knife point. She goes like that, doesn't she? Like this in my hand, like it's going to do. So I would have walked on. There's no way you're even going to scratch me with that thing. They
wouldn't even penetrate the suit because, again, these suits are so bulky that you could have literally jumped on top of her even after that knife pointed out, and nothing would have gone done.
I think that might have been in the outtakes.
I've got to say, though, the best bit of the whole film for me is Gotham's frozen completely, and obviously Dr. Freeze is up there, and Batman's like, we need to get up there, to Robin. And they get up there, him, Robin and Batgirl. And what I love is the only way to thaw out the whole of Gotham is to get this conveniently placed in the plot, big, telescope that beams up to various different satellites. And they're going to get the sun's rays from the Congo or somewhere else and save the day. Now, it goes from something like 11:54 to 11:56 must take nearly 20 minutes for that clock to move, right? There's all sorts of action going on. Batman's getting thrown off the top. He's fighting with Freeze and all this thing. What I love the most is the two doctors have got the best upper body strength I have ever seen because they are holding on to that telescope for dear life.
It's like Mary Jane and Spider-Man.
Yeah. They hold on to that their own weight for what must be 15 minutes. And when that falls down and the whole of the observatory is absolutely decimated with Batman in hot pursuit, they hold on and there's not a scratch on either of them. And the way that comes down and blows up, there's no fire on him, there's nothing on him. And then Batman, the absolute bar steward, just leaves them on the floor. They've just had this catastrophic thing, and they're like, "Thank you, Batman," as he goes back up. And I was like, "This is
where are they going to go?"
Exactly, they couldn't get out. There was nowhere. He just leaves them down there, and then on his way up, he picks Batgirl and Robin up to save the day. And I was like, "This is I'm going to say it now, Dave. This is the worst film I have ever seen." And Dave, I don't care how good you are not going to beat this thing. Absolutely. Physiologically, the plot, there's no acting, there's no choreography. The fighting is absolutely atrocious. I could actually put two static little toys here together and I would get a better film if they never moved for a year than this piece of absolute nonsense. It's just atrocious. And then what I find even worse is we have a bit of a come together and a bit of thing where Batman's like, "Victor, there's a doctor in there, please save, what's the cure for this McGregor syndrome," and all that, which is fine, which coincidentally Alfred has the same as his wife, which is absolute, sort of like a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance they would have the same illness. But is when they go to the Arkham Asylum, he's got his full suit back on. And I'm thinking, there's no way they're going to let him have that suit on. I'm thinking, and he says to Poison Ivy, like, "That's it, you're for it." I was thinking, oh, this is just, don't make any sense. Saying he's going to break out again or something. I don't know. I'm just so glad, as you said, Dave, that the end credits were pretty close at this point because it's absolutely rubbish.
And this movie's long, too. It's over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it feels it. It feels longer.
You're right. It runs a 1 hour 59
a
longer.
lot longer.
And it runs 1 hour 59 longer than it should, Jamie. You're so right. What about yourself, Dave? I can't wait to hear yours.
Oh my God. I mean, genuinely, the best bit of this movie was the title credits when they started to roll because we got a bit of Smashing Pumpkins, which actually is a pretty good song. I quite like it. But, I was just so grateful it was getting near the end. It did feel a lot longer than its 2 hours. I just couldn't believe it. I don't think I've really talked about the costumes that much, but when we looked at Batman Forever, we said the camera just lingered on Val Kilmer's butt just a little bit too long when he got his second rubber suit there. I was like, that's a bit weird. Well, it took that moment for Batman Forever and just ramped it up to 11 for this one. And I don't care what Joel Schumacher says about them being anatomically correct. People's superhero costumes are not supposed to see them pretend to be naked. Just stick some, I don't know. It's just awful. And it's just, like I said, I just couldn't help. But I mean, by this point, my anger had subsided a bit because I genuinely went into this with an open mind and I just couldn't believe what was happening before my eyes. But I mean, all very convenient, like you say, about having the same syndrome, this McGregor syndrome, almost as convenient about the Martha thing years later. And I don't know what else I can say about this end bit other than I guess Arnie's character, he was kind of redeemable. I think going back, I mentioned the Batman animated series. I think that was a brilliant move that they did there, that in terms of making his origin, making him more empathetic, so you can kind of see where he's coming from. He's not just being a two-dimensional villain. He's got a purpose in life. And I don't, is that how Arkham works? You just put men and women together to share cells. I don't get it, but I think I'm not going to spill into my scores. So in terms of this final act, I think I'm probably done.
Well, I think if in 69 podcasts, Dave, there's been quite a few times where you've just said, you know what, I've just got to stop. And in this point, I've been so impressed that this has finally got you. We've actually got a film that has beaten even... Because honestly, Jamie, I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up Dave's backside, but Dave's one of the most articulate and thought-out people who talks, and he knows and thinks, whereas I'm the absolute maniac who goes in crash bang wallet, never checks anything when I'm texting or when I'm saying things. I jump in on everything. Dave is very, very meticulous and very, very... has a good thought process of things and tries to take a step back. With this, though, Dave, it's absolutely done you, and I'm so happy.
Broken me.
Yeah,
normally, I take delight in the bad ones as well. My only delight is that this watching process is over and the recording process will soon be over. So as we can get on to the next week's Choice of the Week, the sooner that comes, the better, I think.
No, good stuff. Now, I think we need to go into the review then, don't we, guys? Let's go. So,
I've got a good feeling about this.
Now, Jamie, I know I've put you on the spot each time, but as the guest and our good friend, would you like to go first, please?
Sure. So Hell's Kitchen is the lowest point.
No,
it's
Phantom
not.
Zone.
Zone. Phantom. Okay, so great. Phantom Zone. Very easy.
I was almost about to fall off my chair there.
I got them. No. The Phantom. It is well into the Phantom Zone. The furthest back you can go up against that space. The only good thing I will say about this movie that it has is that because this movie did so poorly, we got Nolan's trilogy. And because the studio was like, we're not making another one of these, you're gone. That we got a whole new beautiful, beautiful trilogy of Batman movies. So that's the one thank you I will give you, Joel Schumacher. But I'm sending your movie to the Phantom Zone.
What about yourself, Dave?
Well, and I echo what Jamie says there. It gives me more appreciation for what Nolan did, because this is a franchise-killing movie. I'm actually surprised that anyone put anything behind this after this movie. I guess the only redeeming thing is that they know, they could make a good Batman movie, but going back and rewatching this, I wouldn't have been surprised if we didn't see another Batman movie for 30 years. It was just that bad. And I'll give some more thoughts, but I do have to say I'll go straight into the score there. This is absolutely a Phantom Zone. This is the toilet in the Phantom Zone. This is Bane going out on the beers 24 hours and then having the spiciest curry in the world and then just having no holes barred access to that toilet. This is placed right in there in the Phantom Zone. It's that bad. I think the cinematography was awful. Every actor in this is terrible. There's absolutely no one that comes out with any credit. Again, these are good actors. These are people who have gone on to do other good things. And so I can only think that that's the direction that they were given. And that line about, Schumacher used to shout from his chair that, remember, this is a cartoon, absolutely marries up with the end product that we see. I just cannot believe it. And I am going to borrow some lines from Christie in there. And I'm going to say, this is the worst movie I think I've ever seen. And I think I've seen some bad ones. Howard the Duck, Fantastic Four, unreleased from 94, Weird Science, all these movies. I apologize if I said Speed Racer, I apologize to you. I gave you some abuse and you are nowhere near where this movie is. So sorry to all the other movies that have ever been made. Batman and Robin, you are the worst. Now, Chris, how about you?
I've got my hands up going, yeah! I'm going to say great pleasure in editing this one this week, David. I've got to say. Now,
you want to do it again, don't you? Just to see me really jump off the ledge.
Oh, Dave's gone all Chris this week, hasn't you? That's Dave and you're Chris. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to argue with anything that both of you have said. I can't. I've been consistent in this. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Now, I've said this now, Jamie, about 6 or 7 times throughout the life of the podcast, and every time we get a stinker, I think, Speed Racer was atrocious we watched the other week, but this beats everything. And I think the reason it's probably the worst film we've reviewed or TV series we reviewed is because of the cast, like you said, Dave, and the budget. There is no reason in that budget why it was so bad. It was all self-contained. It looked dead cheap. It looked like it was made in a little studio at Pinewood Studios. It wasn't. It was actually made in America, but it looked so terrible. It was like they'd give them a backlot somewhere in one of these studios and gone, just do what you can, guys. And it was almost as if sometimes when the scene changed, it was like when you're at the theatre where the guys come on, they'd quit the runners and start changing the scenery very quick because it made no sense. I mean, why you put the bat nipples on? And they're actually, to be fair, they're actually on Alicia Silverstone's outfit, which is all sort of wrong anyway. And you see
she's
that
a schoolgirl. She's got on schoolgirl stuff.
She's got schoolgirl stuff on. She's flew from America in a school uniform, like she's on some school trip, which is wrong. She's got a weird infatuation with a 70-year-old butler. And then Chris O'Donnell fancies her. He's like, oh, I hope you're here to see me. He's like, you're an adult, mate. Come on, you know what I mean? So,
but he whines like a teenager.
Yeah, he does whine like a teenager. but yeah, it is simply the worst thing ever. But also, George Clooney trying to be serious and do his sort of life-changing, inspiring Tony Robbins-like speeches to him, like about life. They just talk about missing a beat. I don't even think his heart was beating when he was acting in this. So as far as I'm concerned, this goes, the worst thing I ever reviewed, I actually said, it went with General Zod in the Phantom Zone in the toilet. This one, Dave, and you've outdone me, goes with General Zod and it stays there. And the Phantom Zone never opens ever again because this is locked away with the key and never, ever to be reviewed ever again. So Phantom Zone all the way, guys. And I've got to say, I've had so much fun today reviewing this. So thank you. It's so good.
I do have to say, this has been a lot more fun than watching the movie itself. Yeah. Now, Jamie, I am going to have to call you out here because something's just triggered in my memory there. I'm sure when we were talking about this, because this original recording, we were going to watch Dark Knight Rises, and so I have to apologise a little bit for that one to make you watch this car crash. But I'm sure I remember you said that you thought this one was a little bit better than Batman Forever.
Yeah, it's weird because I know I'm the odd one out here. I really disliked Val Kilmer's portrayal of Batman. I always thought it was a robot man trying to impersonate an actor who was trying to impersonate Batman for that. And it's funny, yeah, because I think it was the dialogue is cheesy in a different way because there's nobody doing real puns. And I love Jim Carrey too. It's just funny, but yeah, going back to this one too, they're both just bad movies.
Well, yeah.
Both really bad.
I've got the thing is, I mean, honestly, I actually quite enjoyed Batman Forever. I actually thought Val Kilmer was a bit like Kevin Conroy in the cartoons at times. His voice and that, and the seriousness did come across. But once we got the Batman butt scene and he's putting the suit on, I was out then. But I did like it. I did think it's a lot. I mean, in my opinion, I think they are two bad films, but it's a lot better to watch, and I could watch it again over this thing. I mean, I honestly think I was right what I said earlier. I think I've only ever seen it once, and this is the second time I've seen it, thinking I was expecting so much, and it delivered nothing, absolutely nothing.
I mean, in terms of Val Kilmer, I'm with you, Jamie. I thought he was wooden. I really didn't like him at all, but I thought there were some other redeeming qualities about the movie, and like I say, it was just a lot more fun than this one, I thought. But yeah, I wondered if you still had some kind of, you know, nostalgic memories around this one at all, but I haven't heard anything.
Very good. Now, Jamie, before we go, where can everyone find you? And also, we need people who are listening, guys. If you want to get involved with Jamie's production, and obviously we're going to do an audio podcast, and hopefully my Batman acting, Jamie, will sway the the payment you're going to send over for my charisma. And that is, I mean, it can't be any worse than George Clooney, let's be honest. But no, Jamie, where can they find you? And where can they find your screenplay as well, please?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My name is Jamie S. and at JDIMARIA124. And I have a link to my screenplay on Fanfiction. It's called Nightwing and Batgirl Year One. And I'd love to work with people who want to help be voice actors for it. So just message me on Twitter if you're interested.
Good stuff.
What's he doing there?
I'm in full costume now. Here we go. Right, Dave, lead us out.
Okay, guys, if you want to get in contact with the show, you can email us at comicsinmotionpodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us at Twitter at comicsinmotionp. You can get us on Facebook at Comics in Motion Podcast, and we'd love to hear from you. If you've got suggestions from what we can review, that'd be lovely. If you think there is something out there that is worse than this movie, I'd love to hear that as a suggestion, because I don't think I had high hopes. I thought I could keep one up in myself and find worse movies, but I think we might have just bottomed it out. But if you have got a suggestion, we'd love to hear it. Now, Chris, how are you going to lead us out of this show?
Well, I've only got a couple of things to say. This film was the worst film we've ever reviewed. This is the podcast you need at this time. But not but when I was watching this film, I kept thinking of Dave, thinking there's only one thing to say. Get to the chopper!
I thought you were going to say, let's kick some ice.
I'll be back. No, we won't be back. We'll never be back to watch the reviews ever again. No, that was good. Thank you, Jamie. Top one.
I got one more thing to say.
Go.
I just realized this podcast was a one-woman show.
Why not send Junior home early? I've got some wild oats to sow. On the other hand, youth does have its advantages. Endurance, stamina. Forget the geriatric bat. Come join me. My garden needs tending.
$1 million.
$2 million.
You don't have it. $3 million.
I'll borrow it from you. $4 million.
$5 million.
That's a utility bill, not a money bill. It's $6 million.
$7 million. Never leave the cave without it.